Imagine waking up one day to realize your own blood is plotting your downfall. The ones who should love you most, they're the ones who'll break your heart. Betrayal doesn't warn you. It comes silent. It hits hard. What if the people you trusted were secretly planning to destroy you? Have you ever felt invisible inside your own home? If you're going through this right now, comment the number 1 so I know I'm not alone. Like this video if you've ever been betrayed by family. Subscribe if you believe forgotten stories deserve to be heard. I'm Anya, 32 years old, a teacher, a daughter. I believed in family, in loyalty, in love that lasts. But after Dad died last winter, I learned how fragile those things really are. Cancer took his strength slowly, but never his fierce will to keep us together. I thought I was ready to say goodbye. I was wrong. The day the lawyer called about the will changed everything. Dad left most of his estate to meet the eldest. Jared, my middle brother, the one I thought Dad favored, was left out completely. Lucas, the youngest, got only a fraction. I remember the silence when the will was read, like a knife twisting in my chest. I looked at their faces. Jared's jaw clenched, his eyes dark. Lucas's calm mask slipped for a moment. Resentment? Fear? I don't know. That day, everything changed. The smiles disappeared. Family dinners stopped. Our conversations grew cold and tense. My brothers, the people I grew up with, became strangers. They whispered behind my back, gave me cold looks. I felt like I was living someone else's life. I asked myself, did I do something wrong? Was I the villain for accepting Dad's wishes? Or were they wrong to turn on me so fast? I wanted to believe love could survive this, but weeks turned to months. The betrayal grew deeper. It wasn't just money anymore. It was trust, respect, what family means. Jared accused me of manipulating Dad. Lucas said Dad's judgment was clouded. I fought shadows, trying to prove the will was real, that Dad's choice was his own, that my heart was true. Fighting your own blood isn't easy. Every battle left a scar deeper than before. Sometimes, the hardest fight is holding on to who you are, when everyone around you tries to tear you down. How do you find justice when your enemies share your blood? How do you hold on to your heart when those who should love you most want to break it? This journey? It's more than legal battles or money. It's about finding myself again among broken promises and lost trust. But what I uncovered next, about my brothers and Dad's final wishes, that's a story I can barely tell, because sometimes the truth is more dangerous than any lie. The moment I crossed the threshold, the atmosphere shifted. Jared's eyes locked onto McCold, hard, full of rage. Without a word, he stepped forward and shoved me hard against the wall. You think you can just take everything and walk away clean? He snarled, his breath hot against my face. You're nothing but a snake, Anya, poisoning everything Dad built. I gasped, stunned by the violence, but fury surged through my veins. I shoved him back. Don't touch me! I'm standing for Dad's wishes. You're the one tearing this family apart. Jared laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. Dad's wishes? That old man was confused. You poisoned his mind. You turned him against us all. Before I could respond, Lucas appeared, his expression a storm of contempt and cold calculation. This diatribe of yours means nothing. Dad's decision was a mistake. We want a new will, fair and just. I squared my jaw. Fair? You think it's fair to erase my role? To dismiss Dad's trust in me? You're blinded by jealousy and greed. Jared stepped closer, face inches from mine. Jealous? No. I'm just not going to let a manipulative little princess steal what's ours. His voice dropped low, a dangerous edge cutting through every word. You don't belong here anymore. Lucas circled behind Jared, nodding slowly. We'll do whatever it takes to expose you, Anya. Your perfect little act won't fool anyone." I could see the venom in their eyes, the hatred fueled by years of resentment and unspoken grievances. The room erupted. "You think you're some kind of hero?" Jared spat, grabbing a glass and smashing it against the floor. "You're a liar, a thief, and I'll make sure everyone knows it." I stood my ground, voice shaking but fierce. "I'm nothing like you say. I'm the only one who cared enough to listen to Dad. You're just bitter men clinging to what you don't deserve." Lucas laughed cruelly. "Watch your mouth, sister. You'll regret crossing us." The fight spilled into shouting matches that echoed through the house, accusations flying like knives. Friends and family caught in the crossfire began taking sides, whispers turning into rumors, rumors into outright betrayal. At every turn, I was met with cold shoulders and cutting remarks. One evening, Jared cornered me in the garage. His voice was low, but deadly serious. "You want war? You got it. I'll ruin your reputation, your life, and everything Dad left behind. You won't see it coming." I looked him dead in the eye. "Bring it on." That night, alone, the weight of their hatred pressed down on me. I thought about giving up, about walking away from the ruins of a family I once loved. But then I remembered Dad's voice, his unwavering faith in me. I wiped away the tears and pulled myself up. I was no longer the scared girl. I was a woman with a mission. I gathered every piece of evidence I could, find emails, recordings, witnesses who could swear on Dad's true intentions. This was no longer just a fight for inheritance. It was a battle for truth, for justice, for the soul of our family, and I was ready to fight till the end. The nights were the hardest. Alone in the quiet house, every small sound seemed to echo like a judgment, every shadow lurking with accusation. My heart raced with a turmoil I could hardly contain, the suffocating weight of betrayal, the piercing sting of loneliness, and the desperate hope for a way out. One evening, I sat at Dad's old desk, the worn photograph of us siblings trembling in my hands. The smile frozen on our faces felt like a cruel joke in the silence surrounding me. Tears blurred my vision, but beneath them, a flame sparkled, a stubborn ember of defiance that refused to be snuffed out. Then came a lifeline from an unexpected source. Mrs. Caldwell's call, gentle but firm, brought me a sealed envelope Dad had left in her care. With trembling fingers, I broke the seal. Inside were letters she's own handwriting, spelling out his wishes in raw, heartfelt words. Letters that revealed not just his decisions, but the reasons behind them, the fears he held close, and the love that never wavered. And then, the recording. Dad's voice, clear and unwavering despite the years, filled the room, wrapping me in warmth and strength. I listened until tears spilled freely, each word a balm to my wounded spirit, each sentence reigniting my resolve. But hope was a fragile thing. As I pored over the documents, my blood ran cold. Someone had altered a page in the will, forged it, a deliberate act of treachery meant to rob me of everything Dad had entrusted. My hands shook violently, the paper crumpling beneath my grip. The betrayal wasn't just from my brothers anymore, it ran deeper, into the shadows behind them. Days turned into restless nights filled with threats whispered through anonymous letters slipped under my door. Calls in the dead of night, heavy with silence and menace, frayed my nerves. Every step I took was shadowed by danger. Yet, in the darkness, I found a flicker of light. Mrs. Caldwell introduced me to Maya Collins, a lawyer as relentless as the storms raging inside me. Our first meeting crackled with tension and hope. "This isn't just about money," I told her, voice raw yet steady. "It's about Dad's truth, about justice." Her eyes blazed with determination. "We will fight, and we will win." But the fight was far from over. One afternoon, a call shattered the fragile peace. Marcus, Dad's trusted partner, spoke with urgency, revealing secrets hidden from us, a la trust fund, locked accounts, plans Dad made to protect us from exactly this kind of betrayal. As I held the stacks of papers Marcus handed me, my breath caught. The weight of those documents was immense, not just legally, but emotionally. This was my father's final stand, a shield forged in love and foresight. Yet, with each page I turned, anxiety gnawed at me. Could I wield this truth against the tidal wave of lies crashing down? Was I ready to face the full force of those determined to see me broken? My hands trembled, but my heart burned with fierce resolve. This was no longer a fight for inheritance. It was a battle for my very soul, for the memory of my father, for the family we could still rebuild. I whispered into the empty room, voice unwavering despite the storm inside. I will not be defeated. I will rise. Because sometimes the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fires. The night air was thick with tension as I entered the grand hall of the community fundraiser. The room buzzed with murmurs, and curious eyes everyone had heard about the court ruling. My heart raced, but my face was calm, the calm of someone who had fought through hell and refused to back down. Then, from the crowd, he appeared, Jared. Not the fierce adversary I remembered, but a man broken, his confident mask cracked, eyes shadowed with doubt and anger. The room fell into a hush, all eyes drawn to us like moths to a flame. He moved forward, voice low but carrying weight. "Anya, I came to tell you, I underestimated you." The words hit like a thunderclap. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. I met his gaze with an icy smile. "Underestimated? That's your first and last mistake." Jared's lips curled into a bitter smirk. "You think this is over? You think you've won? The truth is darker than you know." Before he could say more, I raised a hand, silencing the room and him. "Let me enlighten you," I said, voice ringing with quiet power. "I've uncovered things even you don't dare speak of. Forged wills, hidden accounts, lies piled on lies. You played with shadows, Jared, but I'm the one holding the light." The crowd murmured, hanging on every word. Then, in a move no one expected, I pulled out a folder of the evidence Marcus had given Methic, with proof undeniable and damning. Jared's face paled as the room turned into my courtroom. His bravado crumbled. "You lost, Jared. Not because I fought harder, but because truth and justice always win." He opened his mouth, but no words came. Instead, I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "Remember this moment, the moment your empire of lies fell apart." The crowd erupted in applause. Whispers of, "She's unstoppable," filled the air. Lucas appeared then, eyes wide, disbelief etched on his face. For the first time he looked uncertain, lost. I turned to him, offering a small, almost forgiving smile. "It's never too late, Lucas. You can still choose the right path." The night wasn't just a victory, it was a rebirth. I felt a surge of warmth, not just from the crowd's cheers, but from the power of reclaiming my story. The past's weight was lifting, and ahead lay a path paved by truth and strength. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to breathe deeply, knowing this was only the beginning. The journey from shadows into the light had been brutal, filled with battles that scarred my heart and tested my soul. But here I stood, now unshaken, victorious, and more radiant than ever. The very world that once dismissed me now watched with wide eyes, unable to ignore the power I had forged from pain and perseverance. Dad's legacy was no longer a fragile memory hanging by a thread. It was alive and thriving under my care. The business flourished, drawing admiration from former skeptics and competitors alike. Where doubt once reigned, respect now took its place. I was no longer the overlooked sister, no longer the quiet victim. I had become a force commanding rooms, inspiring change, rewriting my own story. Tonight's gala was my stajno just to celebrate success. but to face those who had doubted me, who had cast shadows on my dreams. As I stepped up to the microphone, the crowd's buzz softened into a reverent silence. Eyes fixed on me, including those I once called Family Jared and Lucas, their faces tight, mouths pressed thin, pride swallowed by the weight of defeat. I took a steady breath, my voice calm but filled with conviction. To everyone who thought I wouldn't make it, thank you. Your disbelief was the fire that forged my resolve. Every sneer, every whisper behind my back, every doubt it made me stronger. I paused, letting the words sink in. You saw weakness where there was strength, silence where there was a storm building. But I rose, not in spite of your scorn, but because of it. The room held its breath. Jared's gaze flickered briefly regret, frustration, perhaps even respect, but he said nothing. Success, I continued, is not measured by how many times you fall, but by how fiercely you rise. And so tonight, I don't just celebrate what I have won, I celebrate who I have become. Cheers and applause filled the room. Faces softened. Old enemies glimpsed a new reality. Lucas caught my eye, a flicker of something unspoken passing between us. Forgiveness? Acceptance? Perhaps time would tell. I smiled. Bittersweet yet unyielding. Let this be a reminder, I concluded, voice steady, eyes shining, that the quietest voices often roar the loudest, and the most broken souls can be the strongest warriors. Never let anyone tell you who you are, who you can become. The applause swelled, thunderous and heartfelt. As I stepped away from the stage, a surge of gratitude and triumph filled me. The road had been long, the wounds deep, but every step had been worth it. Because true victory is not just in the crown you wear, but in the battles you choose to fight and win with grace. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you rise, fight, and rewrite your story, or let the shadows define you? If this story touched your heart, helped you find strength, or reminded you of your own battles, please like, share, and subscribe to join our journey. Leave your thoughts and stories in the comments. Your voice matters. Together, we rise. Thank you for being part of this story.